The courtroom was silent except for the soft tapping of a gavel. A 9-year-old boy stood beside his trembling mother, his small frame dwarfed by the towering bench. His dark eyes glistened, not with fear but with determination. The gallery whispered and chuckled. Some even smirked at the idea that a child could speak in such a serious trial. But when he opened his worn notebook and began to point out details that even the attorneys had missed, the laughter started to fade. By the end of that day, no one in that room would ever forget what they witnessed. Malik was just 9 years old, a quiet, observant boy who loved puzzles and reading library books about history and law. His mother, Denise, worked long hours as a cleaner at the courthouse itself, the same courthouse where she now sat accused of a crime she hadn't committed. Their lives had been simple but filled with struggle. Denise had raised Malik alone in a small apartment, often reminding him that education could be his shield against the world. Malik's evenings were usually spent in the courthouse lobby, waiting for his mother to finish her shifts. Over time, he had come to know the building's corridors, the voices of lawyers rehearsing their arguments, and the weight of the words spoken in court. One night, a theft occurred at the very courthouse where Denise worked. Security footage was grainy and circumstantial evidence placed her near the scene. Within days, she was arrested, accused of stealing a valuable case file. Despite her protests of innocence, the media portrayed her as a disgruntled employee. Malik could hardly understand why so many were quick to believe the worst about his mother. He remembered her kindness, the way she often stayed late to clean up after others, and how she once returned a wallet she'd found in the parking lot. As the trial date approached, Malik watched his mother grow pale and withdrawn. Neighbors whispered. Even some of her co-workers avoided her. Malik quietly vowed he would do something, anything to help her, even if nobody believed he could. The trial began on a rainy Monday morning. Denise sat silently at the defense table, her head bowed. The prosecutor painted a picture of a bitter, underpaid woman seeking revenge against the system that had overlooked her for years. The evidence was circumstantial: a security guard's shaky statement, a blurry photograph, and a misplaced key card. Yet the jury seemed to lean forward, as if expecting her to be found guilty. Malik sat in the gallery, clutching a small worn notebook. While others doodled superheroes or sports teams, Malik had filled his pages with courtroom observations. He had noticed inconsistencies, times that didn't align, procedures that hadn't been followed. He was just a boy, but the details nagged at him. When the prosecution displayed a time-stamped image showing someone entering the records room, Malik frowned. The timestamp didn't match the night shift schedule he'd overheard his mom's supervisor mention weeks earlier. No one else seemed to notice. On the second day of trial, the judge announced a short recess. As the lawyers gathered their papers, Malik approached his mother's attorney, a tired public defender who barely looked up. Malik hesitated, then showed him the notes about the inconsistent time and missing logs. The attorney glanced at them, but dismissed the boy with a polite nod. "That's interesting, kid," he said before walking away. By the third day, whispers filled the courtroom. Reporters began to highlight the image of Denise near the records room as proof of her guilt. Malik's heart ached as he saw his mother's shoulders sag further under the weight of suspicion. On the fourth day, an unexpected turn came. The attorney failed to appear due to illness, and the judge granted a brief delay. Malik knew this was his chance. He gathered his courage and requested to speak. Gasps filled the room when the boy walked up to the front, notebook in hand. Some in the gallery chuckled. Others shook their heads, assuming this was a childish stunt. Malik's voice trembled at first as he addressed the judge, but then steadied. He explained that the timestamp in the footage didn't match the courthouse's security shift, and that the records log showed someone else had signed in before the theft, but never signed out. The prosecutor tried to interrupt, but the judge raised his hand, curious. He allowed Malik to continue. The boy's calm yet passionate explanation made the courtroom grow still. Even his mother stared at him in disbelief and pride. By the fifth day, Malik's discovery had drawn attention. The defense attorney returned, now taking the boy's notes seriously. Together, they presented the inconsistencies as official evidence. A new review of the security logs revealed something shocking. The person who had entered the records. Room had been a contractor with a past that didn't register correctly on older cameras. Further, investigation revealed that the contractor had a history of petty theft and was subsequently fired weeks later for misconduct. The timeline Malik had pieced together exposed that Denise wasn't even in the building at the critical moment. She had been cleaning a different floor, confirmed by another employee's records. The courtroom buzzed as the judge ordered the prosecution to explain the oversight. The prosecutor's confident demeanor faltered. Reporters scribbled furiously. Then came the turning point. The actual culprit, confronted with the evidence, confessed under oath. For a moment, the courtroom was completely silent. The same people who had laughed at Malik now watched him with awe. His mother broke down in tears as the judge turned to her, offering a rare public apology for the hardship she had endured. The gavel struck, dismissing the charges against Denise. Malik stood quietly, gripping his notebook, not as a triumphant hero, but as a boy who had refused to let his mother face injustice alone. The story didn't end with the verdict. News outlets ran headlines about the boy who saved his mom in court, but Malik avoided the cameras. He went back to his routine, school, reading, and spending evenings with his mom. Denise was reinstated at her job, though the experience left her more cautious and somewhat scarred. She often told Malik how proud she was of him, but also how much she wished he hadn't had to grow up so quickly. In their neighborhood, the case sparked conversations about racial bias, how quickly some were to believe Denise was guilty simply because she was a black woman in a position often overlooked. Community leaders began to call for improved legal support for the falsely accused, and Malik's school guest speakers to discuss justice and resilience. For Malik, the trial was more than just a fight for his mother's freedom. It had shown him the power of knowledge and persistence. He began to dream about becoming a lawyer one day, not for fame, but to help others who felt unheard. In the quiet of their apartment, Denise often looked at Malik and wondered aloud how such a small boy could hold so much courage. Malik would shrug and say he just wanted to make things right. The image of that moment in court, a boy standing up in a room full of adults, remained in the minds of everyone who had witnessed it. It was a reminder that sometimes truth doesn't come from authority or status, but from the determination of those who refuse to stay silent. As the news cycle moved on, one question lingered for many. How many others like Denise were still waiting for someone to believe in their innocence?